character for my glove puppet is based off of my dad. I thought his daily routine and quirky sayings could be used in a performance and would be quite comical. I took stylistic inspiration from Furry Puppet as I was drawn to the colors and exaggerated features used in their designs. My general approach was to make the face by needle felting, as it would allow for small details and a large color palette range. I created a thin base layer, then began working on the features starting with the nose. I determined the size of the full face based on the 0.55-inch glass eyes I had ordered for this specific puppet. Typically, when needle felting, it is common to start with a base color before adding the detailed colors, but I was working with what I had and used different colors to build up the density of the piece, which also helped me better envision the final product and any necessary adjustments. My design features both proportionally and chromatically accentuated nose and under eye bags. As I continued building up the facial features, I became aware of the lack of symmetry. The nature of needle felting makes such a change relatively easy, as I went in with an X-Acto knife and adjusted the nose accordingly, securing it back in place with a few pokes of the needle. For the eyebrows, I used brown and gray wool felt to create the accurate size and shape, constantly referencing images of my dad for accuracy. Moving on to the body of the puppet, I created a liner using the same muslin fabric from the previous glove puppet project. I used the same template, adding my own measurements and adjusting the size to be smaller. When performing with the anything puppets, I found it very difficult to do smaller movements since the general template provided was for average sized hands, and mine are quite a bit smaller. To create the head, I created my pattern based on the size of the needle felted face and how I envisioned the more square head shape of my dad to be. I was unsuccessful in finding any templates online using the materials that I already have, so this was a great learning experience for me. I tested the patterns with paper first and taped the pieces together before cutting out the felt fabric. I used a fabric pencil to trace the templates onto the fabric as well. The head shape was made up of a front side with no darts and a back side with 3 darts to create a rounded skull in the back of the head. A thin band connected the 2 sides to give more dimension. I sewed the head using a sewing machine, leaving space at the bottom to turn the piece inside out for a clean look and to eventually be stuffed with fiber fill to hold the shape. I chose this specific fabric because it felt needleable, allowing me to transition the face I made into the fabric using the same needle felting technique. To support the needle, I put a foam block in the head temporarily. I first used E6000 glue to attach the face to the front of the head for added security. I then went in with various wool colors along the edges of the felt face to blend the full face into the head. For the hair, I ordered a brown fur trim for a color similar to my dad's. I secured the hairline pattern first with sewing pins and added E6000 to small sections to secure the hair to the head. Once the hair was secured, I added some dollops of glue around the hair to maintain the poofiness of it, or else it kind of looked a little too big. The face wouldn't have been completed without glasses, so I freehanded a few shapes and sizes from black cardstock before settling on the smallest and thinnest pair to ensure the glasses were an accessory rather than covering the needle felting work and lively eyes. To add some dimension and protection, I lined the frames with E6000, making sure the piece did not dry stuck to anything else. This glue is super fast drying and dries clear, so I was able to flip them around the next day and add a layer of glue to the other side. I did find this necessary as the paper dried slightly curved, but since the glue had not cured yet, it was definitely salvageable. I did not stick the glasses on until the end because the piece was very delicate and I knew I would have to move the head around a bit when I was making the body. I did leave out the lenses as I thought this would kind of distract from the face, but I am considering adding a small bit of plastic for a more polished and accurate look. I was also unsuccessful with finding a pattern for the body, so I created my own again, making sure to determine size based on the finished head. I drew a more curved front side and a larger flat back side, and I knew that I wanted to create some dimension in the belly region, so I gave my best guess at adding darts in. During this process, I turned the piece inside out quite a few times to check my work. I thought my struggles were finally over after I had finished the face, and then after I figured out the head and then the shape of the body, but I was very wrong. I started with two generic looking straight arms, but then I realized they, at the time, looked too skinny and too long. I referenced the Glove Puppet Arms document multiple times, but I unfortunately was really struggling with turning the concept into a reality. I was very focused on making this a puppet performable for myself, as I do have smaller hands and I'm aware of how close the arms and head holes have to be to each other to fit my hands and have a comfortable hand positioning for me during performance. The limitations of my hand position are also not helped by the stuffing that I did have to add to the body, making it a little harder to just move my hand within the puppet overall. I did attempt the shoulder and L-shaped arm a few times, but it was just not coming out to my liking at all. Further inspecting the original arms I had made and examples of other artists' glove puppets, I started liking the idea of using these skinnier arms, and they're more simple as well. And it fit really well with the puppet body and my character. Also, the tighter fit with the arms on my fingers made a great range of motion. So to attach the arms, I turned the body inside out and carefully used my sewing machine to combine the two pieces. I stuffed the hands a bit and added wires for further support and for assistance potentially during performance. I did hand sew the edges to prevent making the armholes any smaller than they already were for my fingers though. Before getting to the clothes, I would like to mention that my sewing experience prior to this has been primarily making pillowcases when I was in middle school. I did attempt one singular hat one time, but other than that, I have not made any clothes. So I did find a pattern for a generic t-shirt, which I used to make a button-up type shirt that my dad often wears. After sewing the front and the back together, I cut the middle and cleaned up the edges before adding the sleeves and making a collar. The second sleeve in particular was a big struggle for me, and I had to go in with the seam ripper multiple times, but I finally ended with something that I was okay with. For the undershirt, I used the basic white fabric with a similar pattern as the overshirt. For this one, I added a neckband for a more polished look. I did decide to work smarter, not harder, and I left out the sleeves since I knew that they would be covered. I really liked the fit of the shirt and the way it accentuated the belly. I made the jeans from a denim fabric and freehanded the pattern. As silly as it looks, I did cut out an entrance hole on the bum of the pants to allow for the legs to dangle in front of the inner lining part. I cuffed the jeans and added sections of stuffing, and I had originally ordered these transparent, like, spherical glass, I think they're called cabochons, to potentially paint my own eyes, but I made use of them as weights in the legs to create a sense of gravity within my puppet, especially since the head is so big. Something I really struggle with in my art is the idea of permanence and just like gluing and sewing things that I feel like I can't undo without ruining the piece in some way. So I safety pinned the clothes to the body to allow for some room to adjust during a potential performance, and I was very hesitant to glue pieces or even sew them to the body or to each other, but this project really pushed me to take chances and trust myself. The last step was to attach the head to the body. I hand sewed the head and then added E6000 around a few areas for added strength. As a finishing touch, I glued the glasses slightly lower on the nose. I did purposely leave out the arms of the glasses because I thought the floating frames looked a bit comical and added to the overall personality of the character. This whole puppet was a great learning and relearning experience, and I'm really proud that I made this full finished character. I do think I do my best work when I have a template and when I'm confident in what I'm doing, and will be more diligent on planning all aspects before starting for future designs. But overall, very happy with this completed puppet and excited to perform with it.